Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. Somebody call the fire brigade because in today's episode, we're getting smoked out with smoked beers. I'm Joanne and this is Tori.
Sup?
And we are two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. Right, so I just want to point out that I don't write the intros.
I just like playing a game now. I've decided that I'm going to make a game with myself because we don't really share that. I write the outlines. We've said it before. I basically structure it and I do the intros and everything for the most part. And then I share with Jo and Jo comes in and fills in what she needs and everything else. But I often don't share it until kind of like the day of. If I'm actually doing really well and I'm ahead of the game, I'll share it earlier. But usually it's like day of. And so I've decided as of today because I've been getting jazzier with them, I think. So I've decided to just start writing the most ridiculous thing and see if I can get Jo to actually read it. But then it's backfired on me this time because the second you said somebody call the fire brigade, I literally was like, oh, don't laugh, because I was like, she's done it. She's actually read it, and she didn't laugh at all. It was great.
No, it was great. I can do this. Please let us know if you're enjoying our wacky intros, listeners. Whether let us know if you want Tori to just shut up or whether you'd like us to get even more interesting. Let us know. Email us. Lovebeerlearning
or
@gmail.com.
Jazzy. I can turn the heat down. Ha ha ha. No pun intended. If it's too jazzy, but if you want some more spice on there, I'll do it.
Fabulous. What an introduction
to
today's episode.
I feel like it's kind of just, I mean, it's really told you what we're doing today, I think.
Yeah. We are looking at smoked beers.
Yay!
Right. So we are going to look at 3 smoked beers.
We've got our traddy one.
Yeah, covered. So this is the smoked beer. It is Schlenkerla Braybrooke Marzen. Tori's going to let me do all the names.
I'm going to let you do that one for sure, because I could barely even read what was written on the bottle.
Schlenkerla.
Exactly that.
And then one of our faves is Braybrooke Barbecue Hills.
We've had this one before, so I was just really excited we got to have it again.
Yep.
Because it's really good.
And finally, we have got a smoked porter, which is Eko Black from Eko Brewery. I'm really enjoying their beers, so I'm looking forward to that one.
I've not tried any of their beers before.
You've had none yet?
But obviously, no, I've had none. Absolutely
none. You need to get haze.
Because I've got one that's in that, I believe it's in that tasting pack for Cloudwater.
Right.
The Tesco one. But I've not actually cracked it open yet or anything like that. So
I've not had that one yet, no.
Not had any of their stuff yet, but I heard of them through that. And yeah, when I was looking into them today, which we'll hear more about later, I heard a lot of really interesting sounding beers. So they sound really good, but I've not had anything yet.
I need to get some more of theirs because I think they are brilliant.
Cool. I want to get drinking. Do you want to get drinking?
Well, so should we crack this open and then I'll do you a little bit about the malting process and how it's different.
I've got my kitchen roll at the ready.
And I'll tell you a little bit about the history of smoked beers, because guess what? It's interesting.
I can't wait for the fun facts you told me.
I've got a couple of fun facts. I think you're going to really enjoy them. I love a smoked beer. I've
got this glass, but I don't know what is the actual proper glass.
So this is a Marzen. So you'd want a glass that's good for a lager, because it is a lager beer. So maybe a nice tankard, or if you can get a Stein would be quite good. Or like a nice straight-sided glass sometimes there. I don't know what the actual glass is for an actual Marzen. Should look that up. But a lager glass is going to be a good one for this. I have not got appropriate glassware today. I've got my tasting glasses.
I mean, I definitely don't, but
This is a beauty.
It's very smoky and smell. Like very like smoked meat. Like that's what I'm getting is smoked meat immediately from like cracking that open. I was like, oh, it's very smoky, isn't it?
So literally a smoked beer, it's going to smell like bacon.
Yep.
It's going to smell like smoke. It's going to smell like smoke, like burnt woods. Might smell woody.
Yep.
That is what you're going to get from it.
Tick, and tick.
This is a beauty. I love this one. It's a beautiful colour. It's a lovely like chestnut red. It's
got
the head really is nice,
properly layer in there.
Yep. It's got a gorgeous like cream spongy head.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a very light beige coloured.
And it's got a lovely smoky, like a wood fire.
Yeah, I was gonna say so it's very smoky, like smoked meat, but it's very there is that woodiness to it, like a bonfire, but with particular wood, not just any wood chucked on.
I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
So this is the Schlenkerla Marzen. They do various different ones. I'll tell you about those in a moment.
Oh. Sorry, that was
just gone in. You just gone in. So it's a Marzen. So do you remember we had Marzens back when we did our Oktoberfest episode?
We did indeed, and I really liked Marzens.
Episode 4, I believe, if anyone would like to go back in and watch it. But so it's got the bready, toasty, and caramel notes from the Marzen with the smokiness, and that will come in at the end. It's lovely.
Yeah.
And it's going to be clean because it's a lager.
I love it. Yeah, that smokiness really does kind of hit towards the back end of it. Yeah. It's really, but it's very like full. Like the smokiness is really, really present as well. Really takes up, not full in terms of like mouthfeel, but I just meant more in the sense of like it's full on smokiness. Really good. Yeah. That's why I was expecting to be a bit like, oh, I don't know. But it's very light.
Because it's a lager, so you're getting that cleanness and that crispness. That I think that really balances out, because it could be quite cloying, and heavy, but because it's been fermented with lager yeast, it just makes it that little bit lighter. And that's why it is the smoked beer to try.
That's it. So I think because the smell was so full on, I was thinking it was going to be that like overpowering, just really like you said, cloying type taste to it. But it was surprisingly light, but still like surprisingly light, but still full on in taste, which is really nice.
Well, should I tell you a little bit about how this comes about?
Please do.
So, to understand a smoked beer, you need to understand a little bit about the malting process. So we make beer out of malt. When we say malt, we generally mean malted barley. We can also have malted wheat, but mostly it is malted barley. So the grains are harvested from when they are grown, and then they are dried out in the malting process. They are then soaked to start the germination process. And through that germination process, enzymes and starches are created within the grain. They're really important because we need those enzymes to break down the starches during the mashing process in brewing to create fermentable sugars. Without those fermentable sugars, the yeast has nothing to eat and create alcohol. So that's really important that you get grains that have got the right amounts and the right kinds of starches and enzymes in them. So once germination has started, the process is stopped, because if you go too far, then you're going to just start growing a new barley plant. And it is stopped by the application of heat and air. Now, that is kilning. So we kiln the grains, and that toasts them to various different levels, depending on what kind of malt we want. So our malts go from very light Pilsner malt at one end, and then they can go really dark to all the way through. Like we're looking at Vienna malts, Munich malts, chocolate malt, all the way to patent black malt, which when you start getting into the darker malts, they're a specialty grain. They don't have as much of the enzymes and starches in them because they are roasted, and that gets rid of those. So you're going to use a little bit of those in with your what are called base malts. which have lots of those enzymes and starches in to get the fermentable sugars. Now, when this was first being done, way back in the day, the malts would have to be kilned, so dried out, over a wood fire, because that's all they had to create the heat to be able to dry them out. And that, of course, created smoke, and so smoke was imparted to the grains. And that is, all beers at that time would have been darker and smokier because there was no other way to kiln the grains. Also, yeah, so back in the day, all beer was smoky because that's just how the grains came out. Also, we live in Europe, and our climate is quite moist. So
that's a word to choose.
Yeah. So it's quite a damp climate, and often the grains would become damp and mouldy. So to stop that, they had to be put somewhere. Usually they were stored somewhere that may be connected to a fireplace to keep them warm and dry. And in that way, smoke was also imparted to the grains. So you just got these smoky grains. You ended up with smoky beer because the flavour was in there and it ended up in the beer.
That's quite interesting because I think, I don't know if I'm the only one that does this. Like, obviously, I know that beer, however many years ago, doesn't taste like it does now.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think I've ever stopped to really think about just how different, especially like in different regions and like of the world and everything, just how different it was to what you think of when you think beer now. Not that like all of these are beers, like all these styles that we've drank, you know, it's all beer.
Yeah.
Like, but when you picture like I don't know, someone back in the day brewing and drinking a beer, like, do you picture something smoky, or do you picture it being like more, I don't know, I picture obviously.
You think it's going to be more, lagery or like best bittery, like that's what you're going to think. But there's before we got to that point, there are these beers because it was just harder to create malted barley or malted wheat, depending on what you were making, and that was the only way that they could process it, and they couldn't necessarily process it on large scale. So, you know, and even then, until the Industrial Revolution, and when the appropriate apparatus was designed, you wouldn't even get an even kilning because some of it would end up scorched and some of it would end up not done enough because they just didn't have the means to be able to do it in the scale that we do now.
I think I risk making myself sound like a total Neanderthal, but I think it is just the case of like, you know, I think like my brain goes, oh, back in the day, they're drinking, you know, like I said, lager, bitter, like that kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, well, what happens when you go back even further than that? And it's like, oh, I don't know, mead, or like, I don't know, just like really.
Well, I mean, beer originally came from like ancient Sumeria, is the furthest back I think we found it.
Yeah.
And they, don't know whether it's exactly the Sumerians. Some historian is going to shout at me now because I've not got the time period right. But at one point in time, to moisten the grains to get them to germinate, the sacks would be stuck in a river. So you put a sack of grain in the river, get it damp, let it start to germinate, and then you take it out and then you start doing your kilning. So it wasn't even that, you know, they're not like standing around spraying water on it. They stuck it in a river because that's what they had.
And I think it makes total sense. And I think like logically, when you think about it, like for me, I know in the back of my head that obviously it's not anything like, because obviously we're drinking something very similar, but it's not that those flavors were definitely what's in my brain. Like, I know that that's not factually right, but when you think about it, like if you're reading a book or something like that and you're like, oh, it's a period piece that's taken back however long ago, and I picture like, oh, beer back in the day, it's not something like that. So it's just really interesting being like, oh yeah, actually, well, that would make sense to do it like that, wouldn't it?
Proper history lesson here. So when smoke beer started its decline was in the 1600s, because that is when a new type of kiln was produced that allowed for smoke-free kilning, and then beer began to become smoke-free because they had malts that didn't have that smoke flavour, because they would use, like, they found other fuels that they could use, like coke, and then as well they found a way to keep it away from the smoke so that it was a cleaner malt. That was developed in England, in Cornwall, by Sir Nicholas House. It was also cheaper and less of a fire hazard. So, win-win-win all over the place.
Do you think, like, when that first happened, people were like, I miss the smoky beer, and why can't beer just taste like beer?
Why can't beer taste like beer? Where's my smokiness gone? Probably.
I like to think that all these, like, Cornwall villagers were, like, getting really, like, irate with this man. Like, what are you doing to the brewing industry? Why can't beer just taste like beer?
Well, the smoke-free beer was very, very popular. So the smoke beer started
didn't cross the line.
No,
the good side.
They just really enjoyed it, so it was fine. But it took about 150 years for this technology to get to Germany. And then by the 1900s, almost all smoke kilns were gone from Germany. However, they were not gone from Bamberg. Now, often you will hear Bamberg smoke beer, which is where Schlenkerla is from, is Bamberg, because they are now the only place in the world that has breweries that smoke their own malt and that still use a smoke-fired kiln, and like the same smoke-fired kiln that they've always used. Originally, there were 4 breweries that used to do that in Bamberg. The first was Polar Bar, which closed in World War II.
Oh.
Then there was Griefenlau, which closed its malting process in the 1970s. But Spezial and Schlenkerla are still brewing away in Bamberg, and they are the only 2 breweries in the world who have preserved the old tradition of wood fire kilns. So this is why we have our lovely Schlenkerla here. That's are the
interesting.
One.
It's funny because my uneducated brain that just makes assumptions just because of, I feel like, things you see in the media and stuff like that. I never would have thought that, Germany would be the last to get rid of that. I would have been like, oh, of course, it's like Germany's the people that are pushing it, and then they'll change their tech. Because I don't know, when I think like all these advances in beer, my brain just goes to Germany for some of these styles. So
but then Germany got their ideas for malting from England.
Yeah, but it's just the way that things are portrayed sometimes around that time. Like, I feel like you just automatically go, oh, I bet Germany did that. And it's like, no, it's not.
They stole it from here. Anton Dreher and Gabriel Sedelmeier came over to England to see how they were making these beers that they were making. They stole some wort from a brewery in a walking stick that they had fashioned so they could dip it in the tank and nick some and run off.
Cheeky.
Yep. And they worked out, from seeing how malt was being created in England, they came back and built malting processes and developed malting technology in Germany from what they'd seen in England.
Interesting stuff.
Then went, I'm going off topic now because now I'm going into the Czech Republic.
No.
That technology, then Bohemia, Czech Republic, spied on Bavaria and stole that to get over to Pilsen, where they created Pilsner. So they everybody just nicked everybody else's ideas. But little old Bamberg is sitting there going, I'm still going to use a smoke. We're still going to
smoke. Can we go and visit Bamberg?
I think we should.
Like to go visit.
So Schlenkerla actually will, if you go to the brewery, you can drink the beer out of wooden casks.
I would love that. Let's go do that. That's
on the list.
It's on the list.
So the wood that Schlenkerla uses is beechwood. And they've said on their website, obviously craft beer has had a revolution, but craft beer brewers like to try traditional styles. So they have tried brewing smoked beers. Ta-da! Couple that we've got here today. But because there is a demand now for smoked malts to be able to make different types of smoked beer, you can buy commercially produced and industrially produced smoked malts. So these little breweries don't need to have their own wood-fired kiln to be able to make their own smoked malts. But Schlenkerla and Spezial still have their own kiln, and they kiln their own malts before they make it. So they're properly doing it from like grain to glass.
They're doing the whole thing.
Yeah. Which I thought was very special.
I do, yeah. No, I found those were some really interesting bits you just said. I don't know, like I said, I feel like I'm probably come across as like a complete and total idiot with some of this stuff, just because like I know that what's in my head isn't correct, but that's just like the instinct that my brain thinks on is like, oh, it must be from there, or it must be like this, or you know, and I'm like, I know that's not true, but I don't know the reality of it, and I've just never thought to look it up. So those were some interesting facts. Quite like that.
You should listen. I've still got more, but we'll save those.
Oh no,
I will spot them in. So shall we move on to the next beer?
Yeah, sure. That was quite a good one. I like that one. Let me take a sip.
It's good, isn't it? You were concerned about that one. See,
I was worried.
Worried about oyster stouts.
I was worried just how smoky it would be, like if it would be overwhelmingly smoky, and like I would say that this one was definitely the word that I would use. It's definitely like robust. Like I feel like it was a robust flavor, but I was concerned that it was going to borderline into overpowering and not unbalanced, because I didn't imagine it would be unbalanced, but that the smokiness would be heavier than I enjoy. But that was really, really nice. Like I quite like
it's because people go, oh, it's bacon, isn't it? And then it makes you think that it's going to be heavy.
Yeah, I think that's what it is it's not, I'm not opposed to bacon. I'm not a bacon hater or anything like that. But the idea that I got in my head from that was, I was like, it is going to be quite heavy and just too much. But it was really nice.
It's beautiful.
Makes me feel like I'm on holiday.
Yeah, it's lovely. Right, so now we're on to the Braybrooke barbecue house. Oh, we love this one.
I really liked this one. Let's see if it does good.
I was really interested to see how they made this smoked. So I went and had a look on their website to see what it says. And in fact, it says it on the label.
Oh.
If anyone gets this one, it tells you on the label. So this beer was inspired by one of our favourite lagers from Bamberg.
Oh.
Okay.
Wonder which one that is.
The spiritual home of smoked beer, and to replicate that flavour, we added a small amount of beech smoked malts. So they have used beech just like Schlenkerla. So I think that the Schlenkerla Hells, because not only do they do the Marzen, they do a Hells lager, they do a wheat, they do a Krausen, which is an aged lager, and they do a couple of other.
All smoked, or
yep, these are all smoked. All smoked.
I want to try them all.
I know. So I've got the wheat and I've got the Krausen in, but I need to get the I didn't get the Hells. I need to get the Hells in.
Kidding me? Where did you get them from?
Rainville Superstore.
Right, I need to go. I want to go find them and I want to try them. What I want to do is
I want to Madness have them sometimes as well.
Where we still can't holiday because we're still on like blacklist from countries. It feels like. I feel like I just want to get a theme going and be like, I'm going to go to Bamberg and have some beers, and I'll just line them all up.
To do what we did, and we'll just have so maybe this year, instead of when I do my Oktoberfest day, maybe we'll go to Bamberg and I'll decorate the house as if we're in Bamberg.
I thought you were talking about actually go to Bamberg.
No, like my house will go to Bamberg. Air quotes.
I like when you do your themes. I liked when you did Oktoberfest. It was great. I'm gonna make pretzels and everything.
Yeah, I'll make pretzels.
The smell of it is far less strong than the smell of that one that we just had, the Marzen that we just had. And it's definitely tastes more subtle in the smokiness. It's lovely. It's just as I think it's almost just as lovely as when we had it at Bigfoot Festival. I think the difference is poured fresh versus from a bottle, but it's still really nice.
And I think the addition, like the tiny addition of smoked malt in this, just really brings out like the floral notes of the hops, and it brings out like the lovely sweet cereal from the other malts, and it's just like this really lovely, like slightly smoky, like not even like, it's just like hint of smoke,
very subtle,
florally, cereally. It's lovely.
I get less floral, but I get cereal for sure. I think it's far more cereally. And it is very much that smokiness is very, very subtle, to the point that I think if you were a few beers deep, you probably might not even notice it, because it is just that, like, if you had something that was really a strong flavor before having this, you might not have it at all. And I think there's almost a bit of spiciness to it as well. But on mine, I'm getting a little bit of spiciness.
I reckon they'll have used German hops, because Braybrooke only use German ingredients.
Yeah.
So you'll be getting a bit of spiciness from. Maybe what I get as floral, you're getting as spicy.
Maybe I'm getting more spiciness in this because I didn't get any spiciness in the other. The other one was just like the flavor was majorly smoked and wood, and this is more cereal spice that with that hint of smoke to it, and it is just really. So it's really nice. I think the only thing that tops it is having it fresh, because that was literally, I was like,
so good,
like beautiful. So whereas this is a bit, it's still lovely, but you can tell it's not as fresh as when we had it right off the top.
Do you know what it's making me think of? And this is one of those weird things that your brain does. It's making me think of sitting and eating Cheerios around a campfire.
It's funny because my brain wouldn't go there. My brain definitely went to, like, when we just mentioned cereally, I was like, oh, a bit of bowl of Cheerios. But I wasn't thinking like outside by a fire.
I'm like, I am sat out by a wood fire eating my Cheerios. That's what it tastes like.
I wasn't gonna say that, but now maybe I'm thinking that. But it is very like, I really do like the cereal like quality to it. It is funny how some beers can really taste like a bowl of cereal. and it really does come through like that.
Do you want another fun fact?
Yeah, I do. I was waiting for you to hit me with another fun one.
So another speciality of Schlenkerla, so I got this from their website and I thought it was really interesting. The maturation of their beer takes place in old caves underneath Steffensburg, and it is part of an extensive tunnel system that is 700 years old. They're kept at a constantly low temperature throughout the year, and they used to go and harvest chunks of ice from lakes and rivers to cool down the caves further if it had been a warm winter. And brewers have been using these caves for centuries. So when not enough ice was available, they used to import it from Finland or Sweden to make sure that they could mature the beer properly. And that's for their lagers, so for the Marzen and the Helles and the Krausen. But the wheat beer does not mature in the lagering cellar. They put it in bottles instead.
Right, okay. I could see how there would be that difference there. But that's really interesting. The fact that they're like, if we couldn't get ice, we just like went over to
go to Finland and Sweden and be like, oi, give us your ice. We need it for beer.
Quite a lot of ice over there. Yeah. Would you mind sharing? That's really interesting. Although it was like, they cellar it in their caves, as you do, just a casual caves.
I mean, that's how German beer was traditionally lagered, was in cold caves.
Didn't know that either. So you just hit me with all the.
Do you know what? You need to read A Brief History of Lager by Mark Dredge.
I think you told me about it before, and it was on my list of stuff to read. I just haven't made it.
I'm going to talk about it again because it's a really good book. And
we could have a whole episode on books, on beer books, and you could just
we can totally do that. We can totally do that because it's such a good book. When I was like, I don't like lager, I read that book and I was like, oh wait, I do like lager. I just only like certain ones. And actually, when you hear the story of lager, it's so interesting. Just beer history is interesting. I'm such a beer geek. I don't care.
I just find it interesting just to hear these facts that like you just wouldn't, the fun facts that I like to call them, that you wouldn't have known about or thought about or even thought to look up. But then when someone tells you, you're like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to get that one in because we're going to move on to the Eko Black in a moment, and that's a smoked porter.
Yes.
So we are no longer in Lagerland, so I needed to share about
we are abruptly moving out of Lagerland. And
we're going back to ale.
Porter Central.
Yeah. All right, so we crack this one open.
Yes.
I do still have one more fun fact as well.
You want to give us the fun fact first? Do you want me to talk about
Eko
first?
I can do. So we've just missed it, which I'm slightly annoyed about. But the 23rd of July is Smoke Beer Preservation Day.
Oh,
we've just missed it because we're now at the end of July as we're recording this. But that is because, as I said, this dude, Sir Nicholas House, came up with the smoke-free kiln. Well, it was in 1635 on the 23rd of July that the first smoke-free malt drying machine was patented. So as a consequence, smoke-free beer was preferred and smoked beer became rare, almost extinct. But Bamberg kept the tradition going, and now we have Smoke Beer Preservation Day. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's fine. On the 23rd of July. So that's going to go in my diary.
Like a catchier. They need like a shorter, punchier.
Smoke Beer Day might have been better.
It's the preservation that catches you off guard, isn't it? Yeah, no, that's interesting.
I'm putting that in my diary for next year, so I know when Smoke Beer Preservation Day is.
Oh, I need you to smell this next one because it is beautiful.
That's
it's sweet. Like it has a sweet smell to it.
Do you know where my favourite smoked porter's from?
Bamberg?
No.
Alaska.
Yes.
I didn't know if it was going to go topical or Alaska, so it's like it could be either one.
Yes. Alaskan Brewing do a smoked porter, and it is
they do.
Beaut.
I'd say take a sip for saying Alaska, but I don't want to sip this yet because it's too beautiful.
It is actually one of the few Alaskan Brewing beers you might get over here because obviously as a porter it lasts a little bit longer.
Well, if you ever find it, I'd definitely be keen to try it. So this is literally, the smell of this is absolutely beautiful. So I don't get much smokiness per se. What I get is almost like a caramel. It's like there's like a light chocolate and there's like this real heavy caramel, but caramel in the sense of like, have you ever as a kid or anything else made caramel where you basically just take sugar and like we used to put it like on I sound like a crackhead when I say this. We used to like put it on a spoon and then you'd like just heat up the sugar to get like just a little bit of caramel because then it would stick. Because then it would stick to the spoon and then it was kind of like a caramel lolly because then you'd be like, just lick it off the spoon. That sounded like really like
mate,
very drug demented.
No, it just makes you sound like you're desperate for sugar.
Like it's like, give me that sugar
and
give me
sugar.
that caramel. Like we used to just light up our sugar on a spoon. No, it was not that. We were making caramel, but in very small batches. So that's what it smells like, is when you make the caramel yourself at home directly from like actual sugar. That's the image that conjures up in my head when I smell this.
It's got a lovely chocolatey smell.
Chocolate caramel, maybe like a crunchy,
crunchy. Yeah. And there is a tiny little bit of like roasty smoke in the back, but it's
so subtle that it's just like you kind of almost don't know if it's something that is, if it's the sweetness or the smokiness, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Should we drink some?
Yeah, I want to drink it. I'll let you read the label and then I'll give you what's that. Ooh,
that's nice.
That is really nice. It's really easy to drink.
That smokiness is at the end.
Yeah, agree.
And it's more woody and tobacco than smoke.
Yeah, I would agree. I think
it's
also not as sweet as it smells. It smells like the smell is gorgeous, but it almost smells like it could be too sweet. But it doesn't have the sweetness in the taste. It's almost like, if you're going to get the chocolate, it's almost like bittersweet cacao nibs instead of actual like milk chocolate, but the smell is more like a milkier chocolate. Ooh, what just came in the linger as I was talking was a very coffee, like roasty element to it, and I really appreciated that. That was real time reaction right there. Nice. I was like, ooh.
So funnily enough, the label says this porter offers a smoky malt flavour with a blend of chocolate and caramel to add to its smoothness. It's like you read the label before you drank it.
I don't think I actually read that bit, to be fair. I didn't read that bit. I knew what it was. I knew what the beer was, so I didn't actually bother to read. I went like this, and then I looked at the batch number, and I didn't actually bother to read.
I think this is very different from the other two we've had.
Very different, but then obviously I think it probably would be because that's a porter versus the other one.
So that's, I mean, it's brewed in a different way. I mean, it's not brewed in a different way. It uses a different yeast. So it's a top fermenting beer as opposed to a bottom fermenting beer. But yeah, so they are all absolutely beautiful in their own ways. Do you want to tell us about Eko? Because I think they're fab.
Yeah, so basically when you I got this information off their website, to be fair, and basically when you go on their website, the first thing that comes up is like you see the image with the tagline, brewed in the UK, inspired by Africa. Now I also want to shout out, was it Quasar? Is that how you say it? Quasar?
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I saw that brewed in the UK, inspired by Africa, I immediately was like, I want to know so much more about African brewing. And that's why I said shout out to Quasar, because I feel like when you mentioned them a few weeks back, we talked about them a few weeks back, like I was like, I'm so intrigued, I'm so interested about it. So and then it caused me to do like a search for all these like African craft brews. I was like, there's so many, and I'm so interested. It's like,
have you watched
open invitation to anybody, to Eko if they want to come on and talk to us, Quasar, anybody, like open invitation if anybody is willing to come on and talk to us. Like, I would feel honored if somebody was willing to come
have
on.
You watched the webinar that I talked? I said the webinar, it's still available on YouTube, so I will put the link to it in the show notes. But it was about craft breweries and women brewing in Africa, and it was really interesting. It was about a year ago that it was on, but it is Jessie from Quasar Brewery popped the link on Facebook again, said that it's available on YouTube, so I'll put that in the show notes. So if you want to watch that, because it was so interesting. Like,
I haven't had a chance to watch it since you mentioned it, because it's
so good.
I've literally been weekdays work, recording when we can, weekends, festivals. I just haven't had a chance to actually stop and sit down and maybe give my husband some time, I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it. So I really want to watch it, and I think everyone else will find it interesting as well.
It's
so definitely
interesting.
Share that. But the second I saw that brewed in the UK, inspired by Africa, I was like, well, now I'm really extra interested, because I found when we had that initial conversation so interesting, and someone please come talk to us and educate us on that, because love to know more about it. I'm so fascinated about it. But basically Eko was founded by a pair, Anthony and Helena, in 2018. So I did actually reach out to them on Instagram, because I noticed that it didn't say where they were in the UK. So I was like, I'm actually, is there some place that people can go and find them? And they did sort of respond back and say, at the moment they're contract brewing out of London, but they're hoping to get something brick and mortar in the future. So fingers crossed for that. Keep eyes out for that, because that will be really interesting to see if they set up, where it will be, what the setup will be, and just to see what they put out there. So looks like it's just the two of them at the moment. It didn't kind of said meet the team, and it was just the two of them. So I'm assuming that they're a 2-person operation, which is if anybody, I applaud everyone. That's all the wonderful brewers that we know personally, we've been able to speak to personally, and the breweries that have started up that are very small operations. I am like, you have my utmost respect. So yeah, they're doing that at the moment, and we'll hopefully get a brick and mortar location up and going. On their website, it also said how they were sort of inspired by American microbreweries. So they went over in 2013, and it just sort of, they were discovering those things that led them to discovering more, as they sort of got looking into those microbrewing and the interesting beers that these breweries in the US were doing. It led them into discovering traditional African brewing. Where they get the name from is it's basically saying, Eko was the original name for Lagos, which is the most populous city in Africa. It's located in Nigeria, and the tie-in there is that one of the co-founders, Anthony, his ethnic background is Nigerian, so it was kind of a nod to his roots, and that's the name that they decided to go with. So I thought that was really interesting, really, really nice as well, nice touch. And I didn't know that about Lagos, so I thought that was a really interesting thing as well. So that definitely taught me as I was looking through there, which was good. And then when I read through their backgrounds and their bio section as well, it just made me more interested to learn more about them as well, because obviously it's not a secret how much I said I like Japan and Japanese stuff. But it said that Anthony's bio stated as well that, you know, his interest in craft beer originated when he went to go visit Sapporo Brewery in Japan. And then it just sort of grew, their love grew, and it really became more prevalent when they went to the US. They went to the US in the same year that I departed the US. So I found that interesting as well. So yeah, we did a swapsies. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And their designs are really lovely. I don't know, it's not really, I mean, this is one of the labels. If you're watching the video, it's basically Africa. It's a nice clean design on the label, but it really, I feel like it really makes a statement. It's really nice to look at. This, if you're looking at the video, there's this, what I would describe, I don't know the best way to describe it. I describe it as maybe like if you're drawing a star, like an asterisk sort of thing on paper, or a demarcation on a map, like one of those on a globe. They use that design right there, if you're watching the video, on their glassware. And it's this nice, you know, like clear glass with I think it's black or white or maybe gold. One of those
starburst.
That's the exact word I was looking for. Starburst with one of those on it, and I was like, it just looks so good. It looks so clean and so tidy. I was like, I just want one so bad. So I've got a feeling I'm probably going to put in an order as well, because I looked at the beer that they had on offer as well, and it looked really interesting. So I'll just quickly tell you what's actually available on their website in case you're interested. So they have a pale ale on at the moment, which sounds quite good. So
that's the one brewed with, is that the one that's brewed with African Queen hops?
So what I'll do is I'll say what it is, and I'll kind of read it. So you've got the pale ale, so it's pale one, our African Pale Ale APA trilogy, where the bright light of our logo now takes you on a journey to South Africa to experience the country's beautiful hop varieties in 3 single hop pale ales. The profile imparting berry and spicy notes. The first South African hop to feature in our APA trilogy is African Queen. So this is the first in the series, so Eko Pale Ale Pale 1, and this is the one that is made with African Queen. So the other ones I don't think have come out yet, because obviously this is just the first one to come out, but that sounded really interesting.
I need to get that.
I think we've mentioned African Queen somewhere else before, and I thought that was quite interesting. Sounded quite interesting, so I'm definitely interested in that one. There's the Pils, the Eko Pils, Pilsner brewed with coconut palm sugar. Now that really made me stop and go, that's interesting. It says paying homage to our ingredients used in the famous African beverage palm wine, which then had me googling what palm wine was, and again I'd like to try that as well. It just all sounds really interesting, and really just, I would just love to know more about all of it, and to try it all and see how it tastes, because it all just sounds really lovely. Coconut palm sugar sounds amazing, so that's definitely on my list to try. And then they've got Eko Gold. So there's a package you can get that's got black and gold, which for my own personal reasons, I quite like, because I'm a Bruins fan and their colours are black and gold. So the black and gold pack, the black is ice hockey, for anyone that's like, what the F are you talking about? It's ice hockey. And their colours are black and gold. So when they have a black and gold pack, I'm like, oh yes, that is for me. But yeah, the Eko Gold, so it's a lager. It says it's brewed with just the right amount of coconut palm sugar. So that to me sounds, again, really, anything that's got that palm sugar in it, I want to know what that tastes like so bad. It's really interesting.
You need to try the haze, because that's got the palm sugar in it as well, and it's a Napa, and it was delicious.
It's not on their website, unfortunately, but there is the collab with Cloudwater, which is kind of actually why I've picked to drink it out of a Cloudwater glass. So they did a collab with Cloudwater. I feel like I'm going to butcher what this is called, so I sincerely apologize, because I just have I would say Akija can. but that could be completely wrong. So the beer is called Akija, and it's listed as in Akija can on their website because it's in a can. So it says brewed using cassava, a vegetable widely used in many African cuisines. We used a selection of hops found in classic and modern West Coast IPAs and added them in several stages for a full and layered flavour. The Danfo bus, a recognisable feature of Lagos, which takes passengers to the destinations of the IPA's namesake. Again, I don't want to try to pronounce that because I'm going to butcher it, and I don't want to make it any worse than I've just made it. But yeah, it brings back fond memories of time spent with family in Lagos, and this is a West Coast IPA. Oh. And then you've got the Eko Black, which is obviously what we're drinking now. So if it sounds interesting to you, go and support them. Go and check the stuff out. The haze isn't on there because a New England IPA would be right up my street, so I would definitely be all over that. But I've got a feeling that there is definitely going to be an order coming from me after reading them today just to do research for this podcast. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to try them. So yeah, I want to get a glass, and they had nice shirts as well, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna merch up. That's gonna be what happens.
You know, we love a beer shirt.
I would love to get them on. I didn't ask them because I was like, I don't want to like cross boundaries. So yeah, like I said, open invitation to anyone that wants to come on and talk to us about African brewing, because obviously we're two white people. Like, we are two white people. We want to know more. We want to be educated on it. And yes, I can obviously go and Google it, but I would just love
use this platform to amplify some voices.
Yeah, I would just love to hear about like the other people's experiences firsthand in an open dialogue. So yeah, I just found it really fascinating. So yeah, any other fun facts from you?
That's all. You've expended all of my fun facts. Smoked beer is great.
Oh, and this just gets better as it warms up as well. Yeah. It was really nice to start, but it just gets even more. It's like a subtle dryness has kind of started to come through on it as well, and that's really nice.
Smoked beer is the best.
Didn't think I was gonna enjoy them as much as I did.
I like doing this. I like giving you things that you think you're not going to like, and then you do.
I'm gonna make you have some weird stuff.
Like what are you going to give me?
I don't know. I'm gonna go to when I go to the US, I'm gonna get those like Sour Patch beers.
Yes. Then I'll just be excited.
You'll be like,
those.
You'll be like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah. I have no fear when it comes to beers.
Dippers and tippers. I'm gonna make you drink all the dippers and tippers.
Yeah, but if I drink them, then you can't drink them.
Well, yes, I can. Don't be silly. You're drinking the smoked beers. Of course I can. Oh, right. I think that's sort of, I want to go and enjoy the rest of these.
Yes.
So, where can people find you if they want to talk to you about fun smoked beer facts?
If you like, fun facts, I've got all the fun facts today. If you'd like to speak to me about the malting process, the brewing process, anything smoky beer related, I am a Woman's Brew on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can come and find my beer school and learn about beer styles and tasting beer. We are Love Beer Learning. I mostly hang out on Instagram, but we are also on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Pinterest, which is Tori's favourite. We also have a website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, and we will pick up emails for that and for the podcast at lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Come and say hello. And if people want to talk to you about palm sugar wine, where can they get hold of you, Tori?
Yeah, if people want to talk to me about, if you want to educate me on anything that I don't know, because I really genuinely sometimes feel like a total Neanderthal, you can come and educate me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism. I'm more than happy to learn things and have discussions about all these weird and wonderful facts and things that you can tell me. So yeah, I don't have a Pinterest. I've got a personal Pinterest. I don't use that. So
because you keep
I've got one.
I've
got a personal one. Don't really use it. I think I just saved a bunch of house designs that are for rich people that I'll never
we need to put your blog
get
posts
to implement
on it.
And I haven't updated that in a while, so maybe I will update my blog.
Okay.
And I will get that going again, maybe.
Yep.
After the summer.
Yes. We're also getting into festival season, and we will be at various different festivals. If you see either of us, come up and say hello. We would love to meet you.
But give me the heads up before you do. Don't just Just be like, I think I know you. Don't just I don't know.
Be like, hi.
Don't just come up behind me and be like, because I'll be like, what is happening to me right now? Yeah, no, I think that's the problem, is it's festival season, so I'm not on top of any of my socials. But you can find out where I am.
Yes.
By messaging me on Instagram. So
there we go.
Let's go enjoy our beers.
Right, on that note, cheers.